Hi, welcome to Overthinking Entrepreneur. I'm Megan, and I've had a successful online business for a few years now, and I think I overthought probably about 90% of my decisions along the way. Honestly, I just overthought whether I should say 90% or pretty much every decision in this intro. So if you find that relatable, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I will help you get out of overthinking and into action so that your online business can finally start growing. Why am I not successful yet? Is there something wrong with me? Have you ever asked yourself this question? That's what I want to talk about today. I know that I asked myself this question many years ago when I was still getting all of this stuff figured out. And I was just thinking about this. I was retelling the story of my own journey as I started to work on my own branding and my own value and the way that I present and position myself and the way I market and all of that. And as I kind of went back through that journey, I was thinking about that period of time where I almost quit. And where I thought to myself, maybe I'm not cut out for this, or the things that seem to be working for other people just aren't working for me. Like, what is wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Maybe I need to just admit that I'm not cut out for this, and there's something about other people that makes it easy for them and makes them successful and isn't happening for me. So I want to take you through 3 different things that could be happening. It might be all 3. It might be none of these. There's a lot of other things that could be going on in terms of if you're feeling frustrated that people aren't buying. So I'm not going to be talking in this episode about the way that you market yourself and are you saying the right things and are you posting the right things and all of that kind of stuff. We're not necessarily going to talk about the buying journey or your customers or anything like that. I want to just talk about 3 different things that I think are really important and common big problems that I've seen with people who are trying, in the sense that they're showing up somewhat consistently. They're posting, they're making some effort towards their business, but they're not really getting where they want to be. I see these 3 issues happen a lot, and I've been doing this for years. I've worked with hundreds of people, so I want to just put these out here, and hopefully you can identify if any of these might be what's going on for you, because once you know what's going on, then you can fix it. When you're stuck in that place of, I just don't know, there must be something wrong with me, I don't know why other people succeed and I don't, there's not much you can do, because you're like, I don't know, and if you believe there's something wrong with you, you can't really fix that, So I want to hopefully help you identify what might be going on with you, what might be the reason that your growth is slower than you want it to be, so that you can do some self-reflection. I think self-awareness is one of the most important things as an entrepreneur. I think it's important for everyone. But I think it's really important as an entrepreneur to be able to be objective and self-aware and honest with yourself about what's going on. Now, some people take this too far and get too critical and beat themselves up, and that's not what we're trying to do here. But I think it's really important that you are just self-aware and honest and objective with yourself about if any of these things might be happening. And if you don't feel like you're able to do that, that's where you either need some sort of coach or mentor, or you need to find some business besties, some people that can help you sort through this. So, okay, let's get into it. So the first of the 3 could be that people don't trust you. Trust is something that really has to be earned in the business world, especially the online business world. I think when we walk into a local shop and we can meet the person and we see that they have a real shop and they have real products, it's easier to have that trust when we can see it and touch it and like we're in their space, or if they provide a service and we're seeing them out in our community. When it comes online, anyone can call themselves anything. And so just showing up and saying, hey, I have something to sell, does not mean that people will trust you. Does not mean that they believe inherently that you're not trying to scam them, because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to scam them. That's just the reality. I am so baffled by someone who puts so much effort into these elaborate scams. I'm like, you could just make money the legit way with as much effort as you're putting into trying to scam people. But anyway, there are people out there who are trying to scam people. There are people out there that have no idea what they're talking about. There are people out there that maybe they're not necessarily intending harm or to scam, but they don't know what they're talking about. And they're out there like spouting all of this incorrect information and possibly selling products to people that shouldn't be taking. There's a lot going on out there. And so I think now more than ever, people have kind of become more discerning with this. I think in the beginning, we had a little bit of the Wild West and you could kind of get away with saying a lot. And depending on how much people had been exposed to it, it worked, like if you were the first person they saw doing something like this, you could get away with it because they weren't as skeptical then, and there wasn't as much competition and so many different things. Now, pretty much everyone is a little bit more skeptical when they are introduced to a new online business, especially from a stranger, from someone that they don't know in person. They have no mutual friend with you. They have no reason to know if you are who you say you are, right? There's the whole catfishing thing. There's lots of craziness out there. So it's really important that you earn people's trust. If they don't trust you, they will not buy from you. Would you buy from someone you don't trust? I wouldn't. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I would not buy from someone that I don't trust. So I think earning that trust is really important. And it's something that you get to control how people perceive you to an extent. Now, of course, some people can read between the lines, right? There have been people, I have a pretty good BS detector. I've been fooled a few times, I will admit. I've been burned, and those times really hurt when I put my trust in someone that didn't deserve it. But I have a pretty good sense, like if someone's trying to show up and say one thing, I'm pretty good at watching their actions, seeing if they align, reading between the lines, looking at what they're saying versus what they're really doing, all of that kind of stuff. But not everyone is. And even what I'm trying to get at here is that what you put out there is what people know about you. I know a lot of people that are wonderful humans, which I know this because I got to work with them, but I would not know this just based on what they post online. It's not enough to just say, well, I know I'm a good person. That's great, but other people don't know that, right? They have no reason to trust you. You can't just say, well, I'm a good person, you can trust me. Like that doesn't really, you're like, well, that's what a bad person would say probably. So it's really important that you are doing the things that it's going to take to earn that trust with your audience, and that you are putting the right things out there so that they can see them and get to know them, and over time build that trust with you. So some things that can hurt building the trust: if you've been inconsistent. If you show up sometimes when it's easy, when you're feeling inspired, you just got off a training and you're on fire and now you're going to take over the world, but then 2 weeks later you're tired and you've been busy and, well, I don't know, I didn't get rich in those 2 weeks, so now I'm kind of But then 2 weeks later the same thing happens again, right? You're up and down, you're inconsistent, you're all over the place. This is something that will not build trust with people. Also, if you're jumping around with what it is that you sell. And I want to just be careful of how I talk about this, because I don't want anyone to stay stuck or think that they can't ever make a move. And sometimes you really are just, what you're trying to sell doesn't align with you in the right way. And if you made a move, whether that be, I know I have a lot of network marketers in my audience, so sometimes this happens where you stay with your company and you think you have to stay and you're afraid of what people will think if you make a move, or whether you want to shift what it is that you sell or within your own. I actually have worked with a lot of people that started as network marketers and jumped into their own thing. So I think there's a lot of really good reasons why you would pivot or why you might want to make a move within your business. However, you need to really think these moves through when you make them, and you need to do your research. And I have seen person after person who was with a network marketing company for years, built a team, built a lot of trust, and then, something changes. They're probably not making as much money anymore, and they decide to move to a new company, and they jump into this new thing, and they bring all these people with them, and then 2 weeks later they say, well, that didn't work out, and they move to a new thing, and they bring all these, and it's like, you're messing with other people's lives. Like, when it's completely fine to make a decision for yourself and your family, but you have to also acknowledge the influence that you hold, and just remember that if you're trying to get other people to come with you, you really need to be sure about the move that you're making. This isn't really related to our episode. It's just something that frustrates me that I see happen a lot. But jumping around from thing to thing. Oh, now this is my passion. Now this is my passion. Now this is my passion. You guys know I've always loved this. And you're like, what? I've never heard you talk about that before. I thought makeup was your passion. Now this is your passion, So if you're being inconsistent or you're jumping around from thing to thing to thing, it's really hard for people to trust you. Also, if you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do, it can be really easy to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then not do it, because it's hard. And you have to find the motivation and the willpower, and you have to have the discipline to get it done when no one else really is holding you accountable to get it done. So you have to make sure that you follow through on what you say that you'll do, and that who you say you are really is who you are and that your word means something. Now, am I saying that you can't ever make a mistake or you can't ever mess up or you can't ever say, I said I was going to do this week, but I have to push it to next week? Of course not. Of course you can do those things, but just be honest and transparent when those things need to happen. And people will trust you even more if that's the case. If you come out and say, hey, I know I said I was going to do this week, but I've had a really terrible week and I need to push it back to next week. This happened. And you can decide how much you want to share. You don't ever owe anyone like the full details of what's going on, but simply communicating, simply saying, I know that I want to do this and I almost pushed through because I want to follow through on what I said, but I really know that it's going to be better and this is what I need to do for me to move it to next week. That is fine. There is nothing, I am not saying you can't ever mess up or make changes or not do something exactly the way that you said that you were going to do it in the first place. It's more so just more often than not, do you follow through? Does your word mean something? And are you honest and do you own up if you do make a mistake? Because that makes a big difference in terms of people trusting you. And then I also think that something really important here is that you need to demonstrate your knowledge and your experience. There's a lot of people out there calling themselves whatever they want to online these days, right? There are people calling themselves coaches who've never made a dollar. And, of course, you can coach in different things. They might not, but if they're calling themselves a business coach and there's all these people saying, I'm going to teach you to make thousands of dollars online, but they've never done that themselves, right? There's a lot of this. There's this whole fake it till you make it idea. I've seen this happen a lot where there was this person who got really into the master resale rights stuff on my Facebook, and she was sharing all these screenshots of the thousands of dollars that she made. And then after a few weeks, she posted a screenshot that actually had her name in it. You could tell that this was the first real screenshot, and she made $300. And listen, $300 is awesome. I am not knocking that, but what really skeeved me out was the way that she pretended like she was making all those thousands of dollars, but it was very obvious that was not a real screenshot, not her own. It was someone else's, So there's a lot of people out there trying to make all these claims, but they don't have the knowledge and the experience to back it up. And if you're a beginner, that's okay. It is okay to be a beginner. Tell people you're a beginner. Take them on the journey with you. You don't need to pretend to be something that you're not or be further along from where you are. You just need to be transparent with where you are. And you need to work on gaining the knowledge and gaining the experience. I work with a lot of network marketers, and this is kind of an interesting area there where I've had a lot of people who, when they first get started in their business, they're like, I tried a product and I loved it. And so I signed up and I wanted to sell, but I don't really know the details about this industry. And that's okay. But then you talk to that same person 2 years later and they're still like, I don't know anything about this industry. And it's like, what have you been doing for 2 years? You haven't done any research? You haven't looked into this at all? You haven't wanted to expand your knowledge and know what the heck you're talking about after 2 years? I'm not saying that you need to know every little detail that's outside of your scope, but I am saying that you need to be working on your knowledge and you need to be working on your experience if you want people to trust you. You can't just show up and say, I have no clue what I'm talking about, but you should buy from me. That does not make people trust you, So make sure that you're working on your knowledge, that you are actually doing the thing that you say you want to help people with. You're getting that personal experience in it and you're sharing that with them. That goes a really long way towards building trust. Okay, so that's number one. People just might not trust you yet, and that's okay. Trust is something that's earned, and trust is something that takes time, but it's so worth building that trust. Next thing, people don't know you. They might not know you yet. Now, and this happens a few different ways. It could be that the people who are in your audience don't feel like they truly know you because you're really not letting them in. There are people who say, well, I post all the time and I post personal stuff. And it's like, well, you actually post the other people in your life, but I don't know anything about you. I know that you have kids. I know that you have pets. I know that what your job is. I know the things that you do for other people, but there's a lot of times where I don't really have a sense of you. I don't have your personality. I don't have the slightest idea of if we were going to hang out, what we might do for the day, because I don't know anything about you or what you like to do. So, and this, this does depend a bit on what you sell and how you want to build your brand. I work with people who want to be a personal brand and want to build it around themselves and want to put themselves out there within reason, of course. You do not have to, like I said, I'm a firm believer that some things can stay private and that is fine. But if you want to build by being a personal brand and building those relationships, it's really important that people get to know you. And in order to do that, you have to put yourself out there. You have to let people in. You have to open yourself up to some judgment. I am not saying you have to tolerate people saying rude or judgy things to you. You can always block them or whatever, right? You're in control. But so many of us are so scared of being judged. We're so scared of not being liked. We're so scared of being rejected by internet strangers that we don't put ourselves out there. And if you never put yourself out there, people can't get to know you, and it's going to impact your success if this is the way that you are trying to grow. So it's really important that you let people in, that you let them get to know you. And again, you get to decide what you share. You don't ever have to put anything out there that you're not comfortable sharing, but you do need to let people get to know you. And there are lots of ways that you can do this. There are lots of things that people know about me and lots of things people don't know about me. And that's on purpose. And it'll stay that way. And so you can kind of selectively decide what you put out there and what you would rather just not. And that's okay. But people do want to feel that sense like they know you. And this goes hand in hand with trusting you. If they don't know you, they're probably not paying attention as much. And then also building relationships with people. People don't want to feel like a transaction these days. I feel like there's this really interesting shift happening in the industry right now. I'm curious to see how this will all play out in the long-term sense. But for a while there, it was all about automations. Create the funnels, set up the webinar, record once, set it and forget it. Send people through your email funnels and you never have to show up and work. Just set all this stuff up and it'll run automatically. And I think people are really sick of that stuff. Now, am I saying that stuff doesn't work or that you shouldn't do it? No, I think it has its place in your business, but people want that human connection. And I think a lot of the people who are saying that online business is dying or that, nothing works anymore or what happened, many of those people were doing a lot of this automated stuff to cold traffic. They were trying to keep a distance from their business and trying to make a lot of money with not a lot of effort. Now, well, maybe I don't want to say it that way. It does take a lot of effort to set up those funnels and optimize them and to truly get them to work. But a lot of people tried to get really hands-off with their businesses. And I think people, like the customers on the other end of that, they don't want it. That's not what they're looking for right now. So I think the more that you can kind of be in it, the more that you can be present, the more that you can be live, the more that you can be responding to comments, the more you can be talking to people one-on-one, whether that's Messenger or whatever that looks like for you. That really goes a long way and stands out. There's so many people looking to do the bare minimum and how can I do less and how do I not have to talk to people and how do I not have to care and how do I automate this? And I think what we're seeing right now is that the general public doesn't want to be treated that way. I don't really want to be treated that way. I don't mind some automated emails. Like I'm fine with that. I'm not saying that automations don't have their place. I think that they can be a really important part of your business. But when I feel like some of these businesses, it almost feels like, when you need to make a call to ask a simple question and all you get is put through the automated phone system and you can't speak to a person and none of those options match what you need and you're just going through circles and it's making you crazy. That's what it feels like sometimes with a lot of these online business owners. I feel like I can't access the person and I think people just don't want that, especially if what you're selling is not the cheapest option out there, right? A lot of times when people are not getting that human connection, then they're just going with what's the most cheap and what's the most convenient. And so if you can't rival Amazon, but you don't have the human connection piece either, then you're probably going to struggle. So I think putting yourself out there more, making real connections, really caring, building relationships with people makes a big difference. And then also within this category is that your audience needs to be growing. When I say people don't know you, that also can mean enough people don't know you. If you are still in your same friends and family bubble, if let's say you're using Facebook to grow, for example, Facebook is my personal favorite platform. I think people knock it way too much. I think it's the easiest platform for most people. I think it's the most effective. And anyway, we'll talk about why I love Facebook on a different episode. Actually, that would probably be a good topic. Maybe I'll jot that down. So you haven't found your people and enough people don't know you yet. So if you're still in your little bubble, when we look at a Facebook friends list, a lot of times what we have are your friends and family. We have people from high school, possibly people from college, people from jobs, maybe people from your community that you met a few times, right? We end up with this kind of random assortment of people on our friends list. And if that is still basically who's on your friends list while you're trying to grow your business and you haven't expanded outside of that, that's why you're not successful. I very rarely make generalizations about business because I think that each business and each person is unique and what could be going on can be so individualized. But the one pretty bold, sweeping statement that I will make is that if your sales aren't where you want them to be, you're not getting in front of enough new people. You're not prioritizing audience growth enough. This is huge. Truly, if you're talking to the same 100 people that you've been talking to for the last 2 years, and someone else is talking to 2,000 people and they've been growing and connecting and meeting all of these new people, and you're both sharing the same products in the same way, who do you think is going to have more sales? The person talking to 100 people that have seen this a bunch of times, or the person in front of 2,000 people, most of them brand new to what you do? Obviously the second one, right? Like, I don't understand. I feel like I'm blue in the face, beating my face off the wall. I cannot seem to get you guys to prioritize audience growth. That is the problem. You need new people, okay? So anyway, that kind of falls under the people don't know you umbrella. Either the people in your audience are there, but they don't feel that connection to you, or you are simply not getting in front of enough new people. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's that you're beating the dead horse. You're trying and trying and trying to extract sales from this small group of people that simply aren't interested. And instead, if you would move on and meet new people, your business could be flourishing. Okay, number 3, the last one. You're not ready for it yet. Now, that's not super fun to hear, but I think it's really important to look at. Are you ready for the success that you say that you want? If you were handed the success that you say that you want tomorrow, would you know what to do? Could you handle it? For a lot of us, the answer is no. Now, the answer might be yes for you, and if it is, that's awesome. But I see so many people who say, "Ugh, I hate going live because no one watches. I get so frustrated. I don't have any viewers. I'm so annoyed. I look at other people and they have all these viewers." And the reality is, you're just not very good at going live yet. Not every single one of you. Some of you, it's an audience problem, right? Some of you, you might be great at going live. The content is great, but you just don't have the right people in your audience, and that's why no one's watching. But I see this time and time again, or like, well, I don't want to do anything in my group because I don't have enough people. I don't want to run a challenge because I don't have enough people. I don't want to do this until there's more people. And it's like, well, listen, the first time you do something, you're probably going to be pretty bad at it, And so you need to be working on that. Like, if all of a sudden 200 people signed up for your challenge tomorrow, would you freak out? Would you know what to do? Like, a lot of times we get so frustrated and we say, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. But if you were handed it, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You would instantly panic. You would self-sabotage. You would lose it. You would crumble under the pressure. You would not be able to deliver to all of those people. So I think a lot of times we need to take a step back and say, am I even ready for the success that I keep getting frustrated that I don't have? You have to work on yourself as well. The me who can handle everything that I handle right now is not the same me that could handle everything years ago. The me who really didn't have a lot of responsibility. I mean, I had bills, but I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I had my business and that was it. I could get my business stuff done and then go play video games the rest of the day. Now I have a child. Now I have a mortgage. Now I have a lot more things. And what I'm able to handle is very different than it was back then. But if you would have snapped your fingers and plopped me into my current life, I probably would have cracked, right? I had to get here by growing, by going through the hard stuff, by learning, by changing. And this happens with business. This happens in real life. This happens in a lot of different ways. And so are you working on your mindset? Do you have the right mindset to achieve and also maintain success? Are you putting the right things in place? Are you getting organized? Now, I am not the most organized person. I am not here to tell you that you have to be super organized in order to be successful, but I do have my own little systems that work in their own way. I have things that I'm able to keep track of. I have, a lot of times you're simply not ready for the success that you think that you want because you haven't put in the work that it's going to take to get there. You haven't failed enough times. Failure is very valuable. You learn a lot from failure. The people who fail over and over and over again achieve success much faster than the people that never put themselves out there, that never try because they don't want to fail. You learn a ton from failure. You learn a ton from success as well. You learn a ton from things going right and from things going wrong. But you have to get off the bench, right? I don't know why I'm using sports analogies. Sports is not my personal thing, but so many people are really on the bench when it comes to their business. They're just kind of sitting there waiting for success to happen, looking at other people, feeling jealous and resentful of what other people have and they don't, but they're not putting in the work on themselves to grow themselves and to become someone who is ready for that kind of success. I talk to a lot of people who are like, oh man, I wish that I could quit my job and go all in on my business. Like, okay, well, are you getting things done in your business now? Oh no, but if I quit my job, I know I could. Like, no, you gotta work on those habits now, build them now, because I can tell you it'd be a very cruel awakening if you quit your job tomorrow and you woke up and you just had this business, but you hadn't developed those habits and that discipline yet. So a lot of times what you need to do is quit looking at everyone else, quit comparing yourself to why they have what you want or why they're better than you or why it's unfair or that place of bitter resentment, right? Wherever you might be right now. And instead, look at yourself. Work on yourself. Are you growing? Are you learning new skills? Are you growing as a person? If you're someone who says, oh, I just have a really bad temper and I lash out when something makes me mad, but then I always apologize, that's not good as a business owner. You can't lash out at people, right? That's something you should be working on for yourself. If you are someone who says, oh, I tend to get really overwhelmed and shut down, that's not good. That's not going to be good if you have this big business and all these people counting on you and then you get overwhelmed and shut down, right? These are things that you need to be working on. And until you work on them, you're not going to have the success that you want. I always say your business will never outgrow you. And I believe it wholeheartedly. If you are not growing as a person, if you're not ready for that next level of success, it's never going to come. You could be doing the right things, but if you're not ready or it might come, but it'll fall apart. You won't maintain it. And that is a devastating feeling. I can tell you how hard it is when you finally get what you've been working so hard for and then it all falls apart, it all goes away. I know you won't believe me when you're still sitting there and you haven't had that success yet, but I think it's worse. I think it's worse to have it and lose it than to still be waiting for it to happen. So I want you to really ask yourself, what is it that I say that I want? And what you say you want. I'm not saying what anyone else wants. None of that matters, right? It really depends on what kind of business do you want. But when you look at the things that you say that you want, if I pulled out my magic wand or I turned in Genie in the magic lamp and I said, okay, here you go. You have it all. Could you handle it? And if not, that should be the first thing that you start working on. What do you need to do to make sure that you could handle those things that you want? Start doing that now. Start becoming the person who can handle the business that you want, and you'll be surprised at what happens and how you just might get it because now you're ready for it. So, okay, those are my 3 things. So I'm really curious if you listen to this and if you identify, I would absolutely love for you to reach out. You can send me an email or a Facebook message or comment on a post, whatever you want to do. I wish there was a better way for you to comment on a podcast episode to just let me know. But I'm so curious, which of these 3 do you think is going on for you? People don't trust you, people don't know you, or you're not ready for the success that you want yet. And it could be all 3. I have had all 3 for sure in my business, different points of my business. So I'm very curious, but I hope this helped you. I hope this has allowed you to maybe identify what's going on so that you can see where you need to put your focus so that you can start to get things turned around. I hope this episode inspires you to go take action on something you have been overthinking. As much as I wish you could, you cannot think your way to success, so promise me you're going to go take some action today. Head over to overthinkingentrepreneur.com to find all the cool stuff I've made for you over the years, like my free guide to getting more social media engagement and my Facebook group, Dynamite Entrepreneurs, which has a free course on social media basics.